Welcome in, everybody. This is your self-care staffing for Friday, May 8th, 2020. I am Lou Pascal. I'm the school social worker in the Manchester City Schools in Manchester, Tennessee. The topic I want to discuss with you today is, I think, going to be perfect for wrapping up the week and heading into the weekend. It is a little bit of a difficult word to say, but I believe it's pronounced Hyuga. It's spelled Hygge. It is a word from the country of Denmark. It's a Danish word. It's also associated with the Nordic countries, the Netherlands. It doesn't have an English equivalent, but if you think of the concept of coziness, then you are approaching what the word Hyuga means. If you think about Denmark and the Netherlands and the Nordic countries, and where they are on our planet, then you know that their weather and seasonal pattern is quite different from ours in especially the southern United States. And they experience quite a large portion of their year in a lot of darkness and very cold temperatures. And so that is why Hyuga has become such a big concept in their culture. And I'm sure there are similar concepts in other cultures, but this one has just sort of had a moment in the last several years. There have been a lot of books and a lot of discussion of specific strategies to achieve Hyuga and bring it into your life. And I think it's a big part of the self-care practices in those countries, because you need to feel cozy, you need to feel warm, you need to feel comforted when you're going through a time period where there's not a lot of sunlight and it's very cold. For your mental health, that can be very challenging to your mental health. So I definitely think it can be an integral part of your self-care practice also. So today I want to talk about some of my go-to Hyuga tips. I want to say from the get-go, a lot of these are going to be sort of cold weather oriented, and I understand that we're staring summer in the face, but I still think this is beneficial, and you may be able to find a summer type equivalent that brings Hyuga into your life in the warm weather also. So one of the big Hyuga concepts is layers. So in countries where they have a lot of cold weather, one of the things that they'll say is, there is no bad weather, just bad clothing. So if you have a lot of misery in the winter months, you might think about your clothing choices. You might be a person who just doesn't like a big heavy coat, and you get a little aggravated when you have to wear one. Sometimes it's harder to drive, kind of restricts your movements a little bit. You might be a person who wants some more layers, and maybe, a long sleeve shirt and a sweater and then a medium weight jacket or a light jacket might be more up your alley versus a big, huge, heavy coat. So think about layers. There are all sorts of wicking and dry fit options. My husband's a fitness trainer and he works in a fitness facility, and that's what they wear is track pants and wicking shirts. And I feel like I've seen every version of wicking fabric that exists. And so if you're looking for that kind of thing, there's a lot of times there are sort of levels of that available from the companies that sell those. Maybe some heavier weight things if that's what you need, or medium weight, or just the real light wicking fabric that you might wear in the summertime if you're going to be really active, to get that sweat and to have your body to be able to cool efficiently. Overheating is not fun also. So layers, think about some layers. Some other Hyuga tips. This is one that I learned from my mom years ago. When you are getting ready to shut your house down for the night, you do not have to shut off every single light. It does not have to be pitch black. Now, some of you who are on a very tight budget, You may not want to do this. I'm hoping a lot of these tips are going to be relatively inexpensive. Some of them will cost a little bit more money, but I do understand being on a budget that is so very tight that you don't have any wiggle room. I get that. So this may not be the tip for you, but if you do, then I would suggest leaving some lights on. I do not notice that it really impacts my electric bill that much. And it's very pleasant. So if you are leaving your bedroom in the morning time, going to get your coffee, you're not walking through the house in the pitch black dark. And it can just be a little bit more gradual way to wake up. Having some dim lamps on in the morning time sort of gets that light going in your day, but it's not pitch black and then automatically into fluorescent lighting. So think about leaving some lights on. You might enjoy that. If you are the kind of person who cannot stand for lights to be on, maybe this is not the tip for you. If you want everything that you're not using turned off all the time, this is probably not the tip for you. But if you can stand it, you might experiment with this and you might find that it makes things a little more cozy for you. Another idea about lighting. Think about lamps versus overhead lights. I generally find overhead lighting to be more harsh than I like. And sometimes if I have a lighting fixture that has multiple light bulbs and a couple of them go off or get blown, I'm happier with the lighting fixture with only half the bulbs going. If you are using overhead lighting fixtures and your lighting's too harsh, you may want to get some soft white bulbs, some lower watt bulbs. You can think about all those things, but I prefer to have a lot of lamps. I don't use a lot of overhead lighting in my house because it doesn't feel good to me. One Hyuga tip that is probably more expensive: when we replaced our cars the last time, I'm sure I had been aware of seat warmers, but I had never had a car with a seat warmer in it. And we messed around and got cars with all these bells and whistles, and I became a seat warmer devotee. Love a seat warmer. And I've committed to myself that the next time I trade cars, I'm getting remote start. So if you have to leave your house early in the morning to go to work, and you have a seat warmer and you have remote start and everything's real good and warm and cozy when you get in the car, that can be something that brings a lot of comfort to your life. So think about that. A few more before we go on to the self-care check-in question. Let's talk about water a little bit. When you get ready to wash your hands or bathe or do anything where your body is going to come in contact with water, take some time and get that water temperature exactly right. I can't tell you how many years that I would let water get to be scalding, and I didn't want to start over because I didn't want to waste water and I didn't want to waste money. And that's another thing that I can't tell that it impacts my finances that much to start over if I've let the water get too hot. So that is what I do now. I, number one, try to stop myself from doing 12 things at once. And if I'm starting to run water, I try to stop myself and take a minute to get the water exactly right. The water can get hot in my house. And so I try to just pause everything and get that water temperature exactly right. And if I mess around and don't get it right, then I start over. That's what I do. Something you might think about doing. And a lot of these Hyuga tips may seem so obvious to y'all, and that's okay if it does. Take what you like, leave the rest. The reason that I want to share them with you today is I know a lot of you are the type of people that are saving the world. You're making the world a better place. You are helping professionals, you are teachers, you are nurses, you are first responders, you are parenting, and you spend a lot of time thinking about everybody else's wants and needs. And when that is your focus, when you are so other focused, and that makes the world go round, y'all. So I'm not saying don't do that. The world is a much better place because of the things that you do for other people. So I'm not trying to pull you back from that, but I'm saying if you are so other focused most of the time, then some of these things do not seem obvious. And I spend a lot of time, ever since I've started studying self-care, I've always wanted to know people's practical tips and how they implement self-care in their life. I need it to be more than have good nutrition, get good sleep. Like, I want to know the brass tacks of how you're doing self-care. So I wanted to talk about some of these things that might seem obvious, but if you haven't taken some time to think about what would just make you more comfortable in the world, more comfortable in your home, more comfortable in your body, then these might not seem obvious. And there might be a couple of good ideas that you can implement that would really improve your mood. So that's why I'm saying these things. Let me go back. When I am changing the linens in my house, there's a particular quilt that I like, and when it comes out of the dryer, I stop everything. I don't make the bed immediately. When that comes out of the dryer, I put it around myself and sit down, and I enjoy the warmth from the dryer. That is a huge Hyuga tip for me. I love to do that. If you are a line drying laundry person, you might want to put those linens around yourself and just enjoy the outdoor smell of it all. That might be really comforting to you. So, something to try. I think I have one last one. I don't want to leave anything out and forget to give it to you. Okay, so here's my last one that I'm going to give you. Earbuds and phone chargers. I want them to be exactly where I want them when I'm ready to use them. I don't want to have to figure out where I left them in the house. If I'm sitting in one of the few places around the house that I sit and I want to listen to an audio clip or I want to watch a YouTube video real quick, I don't want to have to go hunting for earbuds. And if my phone has 10% left, I don't want to have to go all over the house to try to find a charger. So I buy a lot of earbuds and chargers. They're not expensive, and I just put them in different places around the house where I know I sit often, and keep them in the car, in the office, all those kinds of things. I like to have access to earbuds and phone chargers exactly where I want them when I'm ready for them. Also, another thing to think about is the longer phone charging cord. You might get like a 6-foot phone charging cord, and that might be better for you than kind of the shorter one that comes with your phone. And on the earbuds, I have had the wireless earbuds, and I like them for like exercise. But if I just want to listen to something real quick, I usually just like to plug in with the old school, less expensive earbuds. So, something to think about there about earbuds. Okay, so those are some of my go-to Hyuga tips. Hopefully you found one or two that you might want to implement. Here is the self-care check-in question for today, and it is just one today. What is one thing that you could do to implement a little Hyuga into your life? And the one that I chose is when I started my job that I have now, and I was getting my office set up, I'd heard something about both green tea and honey, that those things had properties that could help with inflammation. And if you have a lot of inflammation in your body, it can lead to some negative mood. And so I thought, well, I'm gonna try to have a hot tea set up, because I just wonder if that might not be soothing to students who come into my office and are sort of worked up about something. So what I did is buy an electric kettle to boil water. Found it online, not expensive, and you just have it plugged in and fill it up with water, and you push the little button and it boils the water for you. And then you just pour it over your tea bag, put honey in your tea if you want, and it doesn't take long at all. And it just was a little extra something that I could do for students. And at first I kind of thought, I don't know if they're gonna vibe with this or not. This is kind of an old lady kind of, this can be seen as kind of an old lady kind of thing to do, but I have offered it to students and they like it. So that's something that I did to integrate a little Hyuga into my work life. So an electric kettle for boiling water, and you could use it for tea. You could use it for if you have like a dry soup packet for lunch. It would be good. Hot chocolate, any of those things. So the quote that I want to give you today: there is a nobility in making life smooth and clean and comfortable. And that was Lauren Groff from Fates and Furies. The song that I want to leave with you is Jack Johnson, Banana Pancakes. I think that is a very Hyuga, comforting song. So I'll link that for you. The video, you guys have probably seen something like this before, but just in case you haven't, there are videos online of different things you can just play on your computer for a long period of time. And this one is a fireplace. It is 10 hours of crackling logs. So you may have seen something like this around Christmas time, but if you're not working on your computer, you could put this on your computer, you could put it on your phone, you could put it on your iPad, and it just is sort of comforting and soothing. So 10 hours of a fireplace with crackling logs. Before I go, I want to ask you all watching this, if you want to stay current with what I'm doing with the videos, I would ask you to subscribe to my channel on YouTube. So if you're watching this video, just do the subscribe, and that way I will know how many of you are interested in continuing to see me put out this sort of content. So if you will subscribe, that will be something that I will really appreciate. So if all hearts and minds are clear, again, I appreciate you watching this video. I appreciate you subscribing. I hope your weekend has a lot of Hyuga, and I will see you back here for another self-care staffing next week.